Part 44. My Love Simulation with Them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwe. Chapter 433. Maybe it's because I clung to my father a lot when I was a kid. As a result, they generally relied on Nangxiang's father. But so be it. Whenever she puts down her concert and wants to have a private conversation with her daughter, she is always unable to do so. Nango Muna seems to like to pester her father. This made Nango Ikuyo feel like there was nothing he could do about his daughter. The other sisters are similar. Although their daughters are very close to them, when it comes to really talking about who they are closest to. Among the 9 daughters, 9 will definitely choose Nangxiangshi. The worst among them is probably Nangxiang Liang. Her daughter Nango Yuyuna is probably the most paternal one. At the age of 4, she entered the rebellious stage early. She felt that her mother was a bad woman and only wanted to interfere with the relationship between her and her father. Nango Ikuyo also said this several times, hoping that Nango Ryo could have some snacks and pay attention to Nango Yuyuna's paternal control symptoms. However, the explanation given by Nangxiang Ryo made her feel again that this person was really hopeless. She actually said very simply, "Being able to catch the time shows that my daughter still has a very accurate eye for people." Just this sentence immediately blocked Nangxiang Ikuyo. And this gradually evolved into this situation. The daughters listened to Nangxiangshi's words unexpectedly. On the contrary, the instructions given to them seemed to be lagging behind the network. This made them inexplicably jealous of Nanxiang, and also a little jealous of their daughter who clung to her husband all day long. Speaking of which, where are Shio and Notake? Shaking his head helplessly and putting down his handbag, Nango Ikuyo sat next to Nango and asked. Salt actually refers to Nangxiang Yan, the daughter of Nangxiang Shi and Nangxiang Sutang. Neizu, on the other hand, is the daughter of Nangxiang Shi and Nangxiang Ili. Both of them are daughters who are usually most attached to Nangxiang Shi, so they should still be with Nangxiang Shi at this moment. Why can't I see any shadows today? She was a little curious. Nangxiang, on the other hand, took a sip of the juice poured by Nangxiang Yuna and simply said, "Shio and Notake are wiping the bathtub." Ikuyo Nango. In order to satisfy the wives and Nangxiang's bathing needs, Nangxiang's bathhouse is large enough to accommodate more than 10 people. But in this way, it needs to be scrubbed every once in a while. Originally, this was a chore that adults like them had to do on Saturdays and Sundays. As a result, Nangxiang Ikuyo didn't expect Nangxiang to do it directly and let his daughter do it. She stared at Nangxiang speechlessly. Nangxiang Shi, who was in front of him, stretched out his hand and pinched her face, and asked without paying attention to her gaze, "Where are Ryo and the others? Why are you the only one?" Logically speaking, when Nango Ikuyo finished his concert and went home, Nango Ryo and the others, who are in the same band, should also be back. Why is she alone now? He asked curiously. As a result, a voice came from the door the next second. "I'm here." Nangxiang Ryo yawned and walked in from the door with a tired look on his face. He complained as he walked, "There were too many bass parts during the performance today. I'm really exhausted." As she said this, she immediately sat on Nango Shi's lap without hesitation, and then looked at her daughter Nango Yuna with her ember eyes. "Yuna, go quickly and pour a glass of juice for mom." This was supposed to be a mother telling her little daughter to run errands, a very common scene. As a result, Nango Yuyuna next to her saw that her thigh position was occupied when she was in Nangxiang, and her whole little nose almost became angry. "Simply hold your hands and tilt your little head to one side. If you don't want to go, you can go on your own." This woman. As soon as he entered, he occupied her throne. Are you still thinking of asking her to run errands? Are you kidding me? She thought so. As a result, the next second I saw Nangxiang Liang holding his side face elegantly and lazily and making a thoughtful voice. "Ah, then there is no other way. Although I don't want to do this, I can only drink the juice your father drank. As she spoke, she picked up the juice cup that Nangxiang had just drank and put it into her mouth. This scene immediately made Nango Yuna anxious. This woman. How shameless. Actually drinking something that a married man who is married to another woman has already drunk. And he deliberately leaned towards an indirect kiss. Her baby fat little face flushed. Wait. I'm going to pour you juice right now. Just wait. She made a sound, and then ran towards the refrigerator with her chubby legs wearing black socks. After hurriedly pouring a glass of juice, he ran back and placed the cup in front of Nangxiang Liang. Here you go. Is it okay to go to the head office now? She gasped and looked at the woman angrily. Although it is very unpleasant to be ordered around by the other party. But since it was an indirect kiss to protect her father, she had no choice but to endure it. Thank you, Yuna is so good. Nango Ryo showed a slight smile, but instead of taking the juice Nango Yuna poured, he drank the juice Nango had drunk in one gulp, and then drank the glass she poured. Ah! Nango Yuna couldn't help but make a sound, looking at the shameless woman in front of her with shock. You. She said you for a long time. Finally, he squeezed out a sentence from his mouth. Why do you want to drink daddy's drink? I have already poured juice for you. I never said that I wouldn't drink the juice when you poured it for me. Blinking his amber eyes, Nangxiang Ryo spoke expressionlessly. Then she turned her head, stretched out her hand to turn Nangxiang Shi's face away, lowered her head, and kissed Nangxiang Yuna in the eyes that seemed to want to donate her immediately. After doing all this, there was a slight smile on her expressionless face, and she stared at her daughter Nango Yuna, who was only 4 years old. That expression seemed to say, I can kiss your dad, can you? As soon as this expression came out, Nango Yuna couldn't bear it anymore. If Nangxiang Shi hadn't been watching from the side, she was probably going to rush forward regardless of her image and let Nango Ryo know how hard her 4-year-old daughter's little fist really was. Well, that's it. Oops, I'm exhausted. I'll go upstairs to rest for a while, and then come down to take a shower later. He reached out his hand to rub his daughter's head. As a result, Nango Yuna's head turned to one side, preventing her from rubbing it at all. But Nangxiang Liang didn't care. While forcefully stretching out his hand to mess up Nango Yuna's hair, he walked comfortably upstairs. Akude's mother. Look at her. As soon as he saw his biological mother walking upstairs, Nango Yuna couldn't hold herself any longer and threw herself into Nango Ikuyo's arms, pointing at Nango Ryo's leaving figure. Ahem. It's okay, it's okay. Don't cry. Nango Ikuyo was speechless looking at this scene. On one side is Nangxiang Liang, who is speechless and actually fights with his daughter. At the same time, Nango Yuna was speechless and actually took this kind of behavior seriously. Obviously this is just a 4-year-old child. With no choice, she could only reach out her hand and stroke Nango Yuna's little head to soothe her emotions. It was at this time 2 petite figures poked their heads out of the bathroom. Dad, the bathroom is cleaned. Nango Notake, who has the same pink hair as her mother, said to Nango. Next to her was Nangxiang Yan, who had pink hair and inherited the black eyes from Nangxiang. That's awesome. Nangxiang Shi smiled and extended his thumb to praise them both, and then suggested, since the bath has been cleaned, how about we invite Akude's mother to take a bath together? Why? Nango Ikuyo, who was coaxing Nango Yuna, obviously did not expect that this fire would actually burn him. When she heard this, she blinked her pale yellow eyes, a little stunned. I don't have to. She subconsciously wanted to refuse. After all, I just got home. She wanted to sit down and rest for a while. However, as soon as the rejection came out of her mouth, she found that she was completely unable to say the following words. Because Nango Notake and Nangoshio were staring at her with their big, innocent eyes. Well. Nango Ikuyo let out a mournful cry. She has never been able to resist such innocent expressions of children since she was in high school. It was the same when I first met Goto Yuri. She sighed and glanced helplessly at her smiling husband beside her. She knows. This person must have taken advantage of her weakness, so he spoke like this. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi Iway. Chapter 434. But she had no room to refuse at this time. There's really nothing I can do about you. Shaking his head, Nango Ikuyo put his shoulder bag aside. Forget it, I happen to be sweating from singing, so it's okay to take a shower and relax a little bit. There was no rejection of Nangxiang. Nango Ikuyo finally took his daughters and followed Nango Toki into the bath. Chapter 295. You will grow old slowly. 4,000 words. Your 9 daughters obey your words and words, but they don't care about the words of your wives. Except for Nangxiang Liang, all your wives are very concerned about this. Some wives even said that they don't want you to take care of the children anymore, and they will educate them themselves. However, the result is undoubtedly a failure. After being educated, your daughters are still very clingy to you, and this situation continues even until they enter junior high school. Among them, the daughters who like to pester you the most are the older Nango Mirai and Nango Yuyuna. The degree of paternal control between the two of them not only did not decrease with the passage of time, but actually increased with the passage of time. In their words, it is absolutely fine for a woman to like an outstanding man like her father. You agree very much with this, but your wife is worried about it? You think that instead of letting your daughter find a man who is not even 1/10,000th as good as you and live a miserable life, it would be better to remain single for the rest of her life. Anyway, you will support them. Tisk, tisk. Frankly speaking, I am a bit of a daughter-in-law in the simulation, right? After taking a look at the simulated words, Nangxiang Shi couldn't help but shake his head. This means raising a daughter for the rest of her life. It's an exaggeration in every sense of the word. It can only be said that he is in simulation. Not half as enlightened as he is in reality. But think about it the other way around. Isn't it too difficult to find a young man who is better than me to marry? It's simply impossible. How can there be a young man in the world who is better than me? It's too hard. Nangxiang Shi touched his chin and sighed. On the simulation page, the simulation continues downwards. Getting closer to your daughter is actually just a part of your life. You have truly dedicated your life to your wives. In your spare time at work, you will accompany Nan Xiangliang to listen to her favorite rock music. Although you haven't touched a musical instrument for a long time and you have long lost your enthusiasm for rock music, you will always smile and watch your wife excitedly introduce her preferences to you when you wave. You will also go out shopping with Nangxiang Hengxia and Nangxiang Ikuyo, watching your wives change clothes in front of you. Your face will be stained with red blush in embarrassment, and ask you if this dress looks good for them. For an aunt, would it be a bit too childish? Whenever you hear such words, you will always bite their ears to express that your wife is still suitable for such a young dress, and their beauty is far from faded. And every time your wife hears you say something like this, she will show a beautiful and shy smile at the right time. The symptoms of social anxiety in Nangxiang Ili have been resolved for a long time, but you still feel a little nervous when interviewing the band with reporters. You make time and practice your speaking skills with outsiders. Watching your wife who is afraid of strangers being raped by you, the questions are difficult to answer, and she looks so cute, so you can't help but walk up to her and hug her body with your hands. Nango Sensu and Nango Takina no longer work as waiters at Rico Rico. Most of them are now taking advantage of their free time to accompany you to enjoy the flowers blooming and falling in front of the court. Sometimes we spend an entire afternoon together. They lean against you and fall asleep quietly. Their lovely sleeping faces are known only to you and the long clouds floating leisurely in the sky. Nango Rio comes back very late every day because of research. She often stays in the research room. You take the right medicine and carefully prepare many dishes for her to replenish her energy. Her face remains rosy, and her health has never had any major problems, all because of your silent efforts behind her. And she also knows this and will always feel a little guilty towards you. For this reason, she is often on the bed to satisfy your various wanton requests. Nango Akane spends a lot of time with you on weekdays most of the time. I hope you can write a good special feature film script. Her takyozatsu film business is now booming, and a variety of takyozatsu hero films have flowed into the market from her production. The children will also affectionately call her the takyozatsu grandma of the new era. This made her very angry. She was obviously only 38 years old this year, and she was still a sister. Why did she suddenly move up a generation? Nangxiang Sugar is still the same as before, but he will travel with you from time to time. The two of you can feel the changes of beautiful scenery and time in front of your eyes. Love drowns in the orange sunset. There is love and poetry in the distance. The love between you and them has not become alienated because of the lack of work and time, nor has it become dull due to the short-term busyness of work. The daughters who have just entered high school do not understand this kind of relationship. Obviously, the wives spend most of their time working and fighting for their dreams, leaving you alone waiting there. Don't you ever feel lonely or alone? In this regard, you tell them that marriage is about mutual accommodation. Just like if you don't particularly like chili peppers, Nangxiang Ili will be careful not to put chili peppers in your meals. Just like you feel tired and lie down on the bench to rest for a while, there will always be an extra layer of blankets covered by Nangxiang Hungxia on your body. Love and marriage are about mutual accommodation, but in the end it is about responsibility. Compared with temporary romance, what you are pursuing is something more long-term, enough to be passed down. You tell your daughters that dreams are more important than love, but love is rarer than dreams. The right person will always stand in their dreams and move forward with them. After some words, your daughters gradually understood the inseparable bond between you and your wife. The hands of your time continue to rotate. Under your watch, your daughters have each embarked on a different path. Nango Notake, Nango Muna, Nango Masara, and Nango Yuna formed a new generation of closing bands. Although their skills are rudimentary and their songs and lyrics are far less sophisticated than the first generation band, each of them is working hard to play every song well and make every audience happy. Nangxiang Salt and Nangxiang Chunchi are working hard to become writers like you and Nangxiang Sugar. After hard reading and studying, Nango Shio and Nango Harutoki were admitted to Keio University and Waseda University for related majors in the Faculty of Literature, respectively, focusing on literature. Nango Nahiro is probably the most relaxed one among all. With the development of the internet era and her extraordinary talents in games and reflexes, she has become a very famous game anchor on the internet. It is even famous enough to collaborate with some people in the entertainment industry on game live broadcasts. Nango Mirai and Nango Mei used their relationships with their mothers and you to develop into the world's most powerful actresses and high-end physics majors respectively. Of course, there are bound to be bumps and bumps along the way. But hard work always pays off. Having just entered a university majoring in acting, Nango Mirai was notified of passing the audition for a role in a movie in the near future. Nango Mei was also recognized by the research laboratory where Nango Rio worked, and was specially recruited. She became one of them. Although Nango Mirai plays a minor character who ends the scene with only 4 or 5 lines, Nango Mei has just become a research assistant during the probation period. But now that they have officially entered the circle, this means that their abilities have been recognized. As long as we continue to develop, we may be able to achieve better results. You are always paying attention to the growth and development of your daughters. Especially the second generation ending band and anchors Nango Nahiro and Nango Mirai. In order to prevent them from being deceived, you even serve as their agent in your spare time, working towards their career dreams. For this reason, you have also complained to these daughters who never let you worry, hoping that they can make less troubles, so as not to ask you to help fix it. The daughters are a little embarrassed by your words. After all, although time has not left too many scratches on your appearance, you are indeed older. It is really their fault for bothering you to deal with these things. But what can be done? After all, they are your daughters, and you can't just watch them jump into the pit. There is nothing you can do in the end, you can only help them clean up some messes that they can't clean up. Fortunately, you have devoted yourself to writing in recent years. Not only animation, but also excellent movies and scripts have been produced, so your name is relatively well known in the industry. With the blessing of this level of identity, you have not encountered any obstacles when helping to solve problems. Your wives are also gradually taking time away from work and dreams at this time. They have been busy for so many years, and they also want to take a rest. But now is not the time. The careers of your daughters have just developed, and you and your wives still need to spare some energy to take care of them who are still young and unaware of the dangers of society. Time passes slowly like this. Similarly, with the passage of time, the daughter who originally needed you to take care of her has become a person who can stand alone outside. End of the second generation. The band kept applying over the past few years and finally got permission to perform at the Tokyo Dome. You must know that this is a permission that the first generation band spent a lot of time to obtain. Nangxiang Chunchi and Nangxiang Yan have been debuting for 3 years at this time. During this period, they have produced many romantic and aesthetic novels. Their works have been completely recognized and accepted by the public in the new era. Every time a new book is released, there is a rush to buy it. As a host, Nango Nahiro has gone beyond live broadcasts, and has also started videos, short videos, and various linkage cooperation projects, and his career is in full swing. Nango Mirai follows in the footsteps of Nango Akane's friend Rika Takarada, and has received many film collaborations. She is vaguely popular as the hottest new actress at the moment. Nango may join the research group that Nango Rio had left, and took over the original affairs of Nango Rio, becoming the new generation director of the research group. They no longer need you to take care of them. The trees that you keep watering and fertilizing have slowly grown up, and their branches are luxuriant. Under their shade, you can finally breathe a sigh of relief, take a rest in the cool air, and think about the future. 2 years after my daughter's successful careers, you no longer hesitate, and instead of deliberately suppressing your desire to leave, you begin to announce various matters to the outside world. The former band, known as the National Rock Band, has announced its indefinite retirement. Nango Shinjo, the giant Takyozatsu film company, announced its farewell to the audience after releasing the last heroic Takyozatsu drama. As a representative of the emerging physics school, Ryo Nango announced his retirement from academia. The author Tang and the author Shi announced to the public that they are temporarily closed. As soon as these news came out, it was like a bombshell dropped on the Japanese rock circle, literary world, and special circles. Countless book fans and music fans said they couldn't accept it, but in the end they still gave you their blessings. Because they who witnessed your growth in the past have now lost their childishness and become mature. Some of them, like you, already have daughters and sons. After explaining the matter of retirement, you have begun a leisurely retirement life. Although they have given up performing outside and can finish the band in advance, they will still have a hearty performance in the audition room you built for them. Similarly, although Nango Akane no longer shoots special effects films, she will still make some exquisite monster models from time to time for you to share. Although Nangxiang Sugar has closed the book with you, sometimes he will still deliberately write some particularly disgusting love words and poems to you. You caught her mentality and deliberately read these love words and love poems to other wives. Every time, her face turns red and she is at a loss. But it just so happens that she can't do anything about you. You occasionally play games with Nango Kishu, and from time to time you go out to watch movies with Nango Takina. In such a simple life, there is also indescribable happiness that only you can understand. Time flies by in such a simple background of happiness. By the time you look back, your bodies will have begun to grow old. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwei. Chapter 435. At Nangxiang Sugar's suggestion, you decided to travel far while your body is still able to move. For you, instead of lying at home or rotting in a hospital bed in the future, it is better to devote yourself to nature. Chapter 296. Your wife is gradually passing away. 4,300 words. The first time I had the idea of traveling together was when Nangxiang Qinsha realized that her memory was not as good as before. Maybe I'm getting older, so I don't remember some things clearly. The body may also suddenly feel sleepy for no reason at times. So, you want to travel to distant places while your body is still able to move freely. You are still the driver, taking the wives on a trip. You set off from Tokyo and first went to Kumamoto Prefecture, where Kumamoto Castle is located. There, you took your wives to taste horse meat hot pot. According to the store also has a batch of high-quality horse meat for sashimi. You and your wives have declined the store owner's offer. Because horse meat sashimi is something that not only you, but even the native Japanese like them are not able to accept. You have lived in Kumamoto Prefecture for a long time because Nango Kishu wanted to take more photos and send some specialties back to your daughters. You granted her request and spent the entire spring in Kumamoto Prefecture. When the summer cicada made its first chirp, you drove out of Kumamoto Prefecture and headed towards the next location, Okayama Prefecture. This city, located in the southwest corner of Japan, is dotted with a large number of hot spring attractions, and the hot spring eggs here seem to be one of the best. You and your wife first went to the hotel you ordered and soaked in the hot springs to wash away your fatigue. Then, on the recommendation of the local store manager, I made a special trip to the nearby famous Meizing Observatory. When night falls, the pale yellow sky and the starry sky that have been stained with dark colors form a dreamlike and blurred dividing line. You standing here are in the night, but looking from a distance, the distant skyline is still in the day. The boundaries between white and dark are blurred. You sit under the starry sky, barbecue, and enjoy the beautiful scenery. The only drawback is that there are too many mosquitoes near Meizing Observatory at night. Coupled with their phototactic properties, your wives will feed on them in just one night. The strange thing is that the mosquitoes only seem to bite them, but have no interest in you. You spend the night comfortably, but the next day you are chased and scolded by your wives. In this place, you have admired the starry sky for a long time, and sent your daughters many photos of barbecues and stars. This makes my daughters, who cannot escape from their careers, extremely envious. On the line, they even said that they would leave their current jobs and accompany you on the trip. But of course this is just a joke. They know that this is your unique time. Even if they are your daughters, they cannot deprive you of the time and freedom that only belongs to you. You originally wanted to enjoy the night view for a few days and then drove away. But the vehicle broke down just halfway through the journey. As a result, you have no choice but to take a temporary rest. The days continue. After the vehicle was repaired, you went to many places one after another. Fushimi Inari Taisha Shrine, Nara Ancient Castle, Hamanura's Fireworks, Kagoshima Prefecture's Yurihama. For a while, you even had the idea of going abroad. But since your passport is still at home and not taken with you, you have no choice but to give up this idea. Finally, you, who have already enjoyed countless beautiful views, parked the car on an unknown straight path. The front of my eyes stretches forward, as if to connect to the wilderness on the other side of the sky. You sat down and watched the sunset slowly set. Feeling the breath that is not hot. It's so beautiful. Leaning her head gently on Nangxiang Shi's arms, Nangxiang Hengxia stared at the setting sun with her eyes. Although the setting sun feels very sad. But I don't know why, but it also has an indescribable sense of beauty. The other wives didn't speak either. They just held their breath, staring at the distant wilderness, watching the ray of setting sun slowly sinking into the black outline of the wilderness. At this time, a voice seemed to come from a distance. A sound that they couldn't explain. The voice seemed to say they are no longer young. However, so what if I'm no longer young? Gently push the dark blue hair around your ears. Nangxiang Ryo sat next to Nangxiang Shi. She had always been expressionless, elegant, and lazy, but now her face was full of tenderness. It's really interesting to be able to spend this whole period of my life with Shi, and everyone. She muttered. It's like an adventure. Nango Rio also sat down, with a demure smile on his face. Unlike the laws of physics, every day is like a brand new day. It doesn't matter even if I get older. As long as I'm with Shi and everyone else. Nangxiang Ili from the side also hurriedly added, I'm very happy too. Okay, Ichiri-chan, no one said you were unhappy. It's true, you are still a little reckless at such an old age. Nango Ikuyo laughed slightly. Little lonely is always this reckless. Nangxiang Qianshu laughed loudly from the side, and at the same time handed everyone energy drinks. Let's replenish some energy, there is still a long way to go. Her opening this way attracted the helpless gaze of Nango Takina on the other side. She paid for these sports drinks, but in the end, Nangxiang Qianshu used them as a favor. But forget it. There is no need to argue with her at this time. Oh, speaking of such a beautiful sunset. If we could film a special photography drama, it would definitely be a beautiful shot, right? Nango Akane gestured to the viewfinder with her hand, muttering to herself with some regrets. Although I haven't filmed a takyozatsu drama for a long time, I can't hide the nature hidden in my body. Especially at her age. It is natural to feel a little regretful when seeing some beautiful things pass away. She spoke like this. It was at this time that Nangxiang Sugar, who had been silent until now, spoke. Next year, let's travel together again next year. She held the energy drink bottle and looked at everyone present. In the past, she only wanted to go out with Nangxiang Shi. But now, she has a strong desire. I want to travel with everyone here, one more time, everyone together, one more time. As the last trip in life. Her proposal was quickly approved by everyone. Nangxiang Shi saw that they were almost done discussing it, so he smiled and raised the SLR camera in his hand and said. In that case, let's take one last photo together and then go home before the sunset has completely set. Good. No one refused Nangxiang Shi's proposal. Everyone stood up under his guidance. Then Nangxiang Shi reached out and started to set the photo options. After setting the automatic photo, he placed it on the prepared tripod. Come on, Toki-kun. Is it almost time to shoot? Seeing Nangxiang move slowly and slowly, Nangxiang Qianshu, who had always been lively, couldn't help shouting anxiously. I'm coming. Nangxiang Shi laughed, and after fixing the tripod, he turned around and looked at his wives behind him. Then, his eyes froze slightly. With the setting sun behind me. This is the moment when the boundary between light and dark is most blurred. He seemed to see it. The wives are as young and beautiful as they were in their youth. Stand still. Smiling sweetly at him. The photos were taken quickly. Because you have the habit of traveling far away over the years, your photography skills are impeccable. If you put this photo on the internet, countless people will probably send you private messages asking where you took the photo. But of course you wouldn't do that. After saving the photo, you drove the vehicle and embarked on the return journey with them. On the way back, they looked excited and everyone was discussing the details of the next trip in a low voice. It's as if the next long trip will be this year. You couldn't help but smile, let them discuss, put on the music and headed home. They are so eager for the next trip. However, the trip that everyone took together could no longer come. Maybe it's because I've been traveling for a long time, or maybe it's because of the sudden heavy snowfall in winter. Your personal doctor tells you that the bodies of Nango Kishu and Nango Takina are not as good as before just because of the heavy snowfall. They can no longer withstand the fatigue of travel. And in order to take care of the two of them, you naturally cannot travel far. But even so, no one complained about it, they just laughed and teased Kishu and Takina on the hospital bed. The two of them were embarrassed and wanted you to leave them and go on a long trip, but they were rejected by everyone. Because if not everyone is together, then traveling far away becomes meaningless. Time passes slowly. Soon, it wasn't just Nango Kishu and Nango Takina. Nangxiang Ili and Nangxiang Liang also have some physical problems. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiu Dao Yu De Zi Wei. Chapter 436. Their energy is not as good as before. You understand, time is such a thing. It doesn't need to do anything, it just needs to move backward slowly and steadily, and it will take everything away from you. You have tried to use your own methods to treat them, but the degradation of body functions is not a symptom of the body, and your methods have no effect. In the next 2 years, you will take care of Senchu, Takina, Ichisato, and Ryo. Nango Hungzia and Nango Ikuyo, Nango Ryo, and Nango Akane's bodies are also not as good as before. Only you and Nangxiang Sugar are still in good health. Seeing that the condition of your wives is getting worse day by day, all you can do is stay with them, spend every day with them quietly, and give them all the happiness you can give. Wives are actually not afraid of death, and they even tease each other sometimes. They accompany each other and cling to each other, as if they can defeat the coming aging and death. The young leaves of the trees in front of the window grow and wither. The flowers beside the bed changed one bunch after another. In just the blink of an eye, time came 3 years later. It seems to be in response to the previous words, or because they don't want each other to be too lonely. Nango Kishu and Nango Takina passed away this year, leaving them without illness or pain is the best comfort for the two girls. You kissed their aging faces, put on their final makeup, and buried them together. After Senchu and Takina left, Ichisato and Ryu followed. Bass and guitar, the two partners may also play their own music in another world. What happens next will be a big blow to you and Nangxiang Sugar. In the spring of the following year, when the first cherry blossoms were blooming, Nango Hungzia and Nango Ikuyo passed away. Another day when red leaves dyed the mountains and forests, Nango Ryo and Nango Akane passed away. In this moment when all things are dying, you watch your wives leave and see the happy but reluctant smiles on their faces. When they are dying, you can only force your smile and smooth out the wrinkles of their clothes. They who love cleanliness and tidiness definitely don't want to see you shed tears on the edge of the bed. Nangxiang Sugar is with you, you are with Nangxiang Sugar. The originally huge room has now become empty. Even if your daughter often comes to visit you and comfort you, and I hope you don't take it too seriously, you will still feel unspeakable loneliness. The large roving vehicle parked in the garage that has been modified by all of you, is now covered in dust. You and Nangxiang Sugar have no reason to activate it anymore. Time continues to move backwards. About the 6th year, you suddenly felt some physical discomfort. This discomfort soon invades your whole body. As you lie on the hospital bed, you know that maybe this time it's your turn to look for your wives. Looking at the tearful Nangxiang Sutang beside the bed, you just showed a gentle smile and stretched out your hand with difficulty to wipe away the tears on her face. You tell her, don't feel sad, because meeting them in this life is your most beautiful memory. When you passed away, there was a smile on the corner of your mouth, and you also apologized to Nangxiang Sugar. Because in the end everyone left her alone. She must feel lonely. However, that is no longer a problem for you to consider. Darkness comes slowly, and your consciousness also falls into sleep at this moment. This is really. In reality, Nang Xiangxi looked at the text on the simulated page and couldn't help but exhale. Although it is just plain text. But just looking at it, he could feel the heart-wrenching pain. Watching all the wives go. Just thinking about it, you know how painful it is, right? Not to mention that Nang Xiangxi was left behind in the end. This is even more uncomfortable. Nang Xiang sighed deeply. Lifespan theory was his least favorite thing. But it was something he had to face. Human life is too short. So short-lived that even their dreams of traveling again seemed unattainable. Nang Xiangxi shook his head. He is going to take a look at the system score and settlement situation this time. But the moment his finger stretched out, it stopped. Because he was surprised to find out. The simulation before us doesn't end there. Instead, it continues to evolve downwards according to the same rules. Something else happened. Nang Xiangxi was a bit incomprehensible. The protagonist of his simulation is obviously dead. What other stories can there be next? He shook his head and could only continue to look down patiently. Chapter 297. They love 8,000 words, 2 in 1. After you passed away, Nang Xiangxi cried loudly. She knew that so many people who were willing to care and love her had all passed away without knowing it. She was left alone in the world. Like a ghost, I can no longer hear your voice or talk to you. Countless difficulties and tribulations could not knock her down, but this time she clearly felt an inexplicable sense of powerlessness. This feeling of powerlessness is like moving forward across countless kilometers of wilderness, and she is like a traveler walking on this wilderness. You are on the other side of the wilderness, and she is on this side of the wilderness. A high wall called death stands in front of you. It is intangible and invisible, but it gives her such a clear feeling. Unable to speak, unable to communicate, all that is left is a black and lonely atmosphere. It is a very cruel thing for a person to stay in this world, and what is even more cruel is that she has the courage and reason to face it all. In addition to you, there are also your daughters. They have always been by her side. She can only apologize to you for this. She can no longer reach your world so quickly and smoothly. After you passed away, Nang Xiangxi and your daughters prepared a grand funeral for you. At the funeral ceremony, all 9 of your daughters took time to attend. I'm sorry to hear this news. Guests coming and going apologized to the Nang Xiang daughters, who were wearing black mourning clothes. He must be a friend from Nang Xiang. He is also very old. He kept talking about what kind of person Nang Xiangxi was and how regrettable his death was. The daughters of the Nang Xiang family did not shed any tears. They just maintained basic courtesy and smiles to greet everyone who came to express their condolences. But, second sister, I really can't bear it anymore. Nango Mirai looked at Nango Yuyuna with red eyes. She just couldn't hold back the sadness in her heart. Tears seemed to fall down the next moment. Fool! As the second sister, Nango Yuna scolded in a low voice. She looked at Nang Xiang Mirai and remained calm in her voice. Have you forgotten what father said to us? When speaking, her eyes were firm. No matter what, you must not show your weakness in front of outsiders. Yes. This is what their father always told them. If he passes away one day, he hoped that the daughters of the Nang Xiang family would not feel sad for him. No matter what, don't show your weak side in front of outsiders. Because of that time, the mothers who are still in this world still need their care. But, I really can't bear it anymore. His eyes were red. Stupid, idiot. Why are you crying? Nango Yuyuna, who had always had a tense face, saw Nango Mirai lowering her head and crying in front of her, and her original voice also trembled. Hoarse and powerful. Idiot. Because you cried? That's why I'm crying now. Nango Yuna finally couldn't bear it anymore. It's like laughter is contagious. The same goes for crying. Not to mention that the sisters he spent time with all day long cried. Nango Yuyuna felt even more sympathetic. While she was cursing Nangxiang's future for being a fool, she was crying uncontrollably. But as she said this, the tears on her delicate face began to flow unbridled. It's not just Nango Yuna. The eldest sisters Nango Notake and Nango Shio, as well as Nango Nahiro and Nango Harutoki who had just returned, could no longer hold back their emotions. Cries sounded at this moment. Until then, after breaking through the pretense of being strong, they truly realized it. His father has passed away. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 437. Leaving them in a real sense. She also couldn't see her father's deliberately evil smile and hear her father's gentle and elegant voice. The sound of crying could not be suppressed. The morning hall was instantly in chaos. Nangxiang Sutang, who had been watching all this, did not comfort them. Because that's their father. She turned her pink eyes to the photos on the morning hall. Died. Died. Their father died. If you don't even give them the right to cry, then I, as a mother, should be considered derelict in my duty, right? Senior Nangxiang. She murmured the name she had said to her husband countless times before, and gently touched the edge of the cold picture frame. I miss you so much. She whispered in her heart. Slowly closed his eyes. You passed away, and your daughters made a mess at the funeral. They cannot accept your death, and their voices become hoarse at this moment. However, after crying, they became silent again. This silent funeral lasted until the next day. In the early morning of the next day, with the help of the abbot of the temple who presided over the funeral, your body was wrapped in a cold coffin and buried next to your other wives. The daughters did not cremate you, perhaps because they did not want to see your body damaged, so they spent a lot of money to bury your body under the ground. Your wife is treated the same way. The last time I came to Nangxiang Cemetery, a small tree grew behind your wife's grave. Originally, the cemetery manager wanted to cut down the small trees that had not yet grown up, but you and Nangxiang Sugar stopped him. Perhaps this tree lives in your hearts in other forms, the expression of wives. Because Nan Xiangliang once said that if she wanted to become a tree in the next life, she would not have to worry about eating and drinking, she would only need to absorb sunlight to eat and drink for free and grow up healthily. And this wish seems to have been achieved at this time. The trees that were originally short have now become as tall as canopies. Green grass and flowers grow underneath. On the day you were buried, the sky was very blue, and the green grass reflected the blue of the sky. The breeze gently blew through the leaves of the trees, making a rustling sound. After taking one last look at you, Nangxiang Sugar withdrew his gaze and asked someone to bury you in a small pit. Such a small pit and such a small coffin. Dad has always liked open places. Nango Ikuyo's daughter, Nango Muna's face was filled with tears. The other daughters also had their eyes blurred by tears after hearing these words. They could not answer the sentence. They could only watch as the relative carrying the love of their life slowly fell into the pit. After the funeral, the 9 Nangxiang sisters lived together for a long time. Because at this special time, I am always alone and thinking about things. And they lived together to take better care of Nangxiang Sugar. Nangxiang Sugar was well taken care of by them in his later years. As long as it is what she wants, the daughters will always find ways to get it and make her happy. In this regard, Nangxiang Sugar is very grateful to his daughters. Also maintained her determination. While you are no longer here, it is up to her to take good care of her daughters. She was so determined that her decayed life seemed to bloom with indescribable vitality. This is really. Looking at the various information on the simulation page, Nan Xiang felt a little weird in reality. How to say? He is only 17 or 18 years old now. This is how I saw my own funeral. And through the simulated memory, it's like experiencing it all in real life. This made him feel even weirder. You know he's not dead yet. He shook his head speechlessly, feeling a little inexplicably heavy. Nangxiang Sugar is indeed a strong person. Even if they have all passed away, she can still maintain her persistence in her bones. He continued to look down. I hope to know the results of this simulation. However, even if the decayed life blooms with new vitality, the result will only be that Nangxiang Sugar can persist for a few more years. After all, no one in this world can resist the erosion of time. She began to feel uncomfortable physically, but even if she went to the hospital for examination, the final result was that everything was normal. Nangxiang Sugar knows that her limited life is finally coming to the end of time. In the last moment of her life, she thought of the wish you had shared together. We want everyone to travel together and enjoy the beautiful scenery together. For this reason, she expressed her wishes to her daughters, expressing her desire to travel outside again in her dying years, and see the scenery that she has seen before on your behalf. However, her wishes were rejected by her daughters, who shook their heads. Because the doctor told them that at this time, Nangxiang Sugar needs more rest. Her old body can no longer withstand the exertion of going out. They love her so much and just wish they could keep her by their side for one more second. Aware of his daughter's thoughts, Nangxiang Sugar sighed and did not mention the trip again. Just spending every day, every period of time. She always holds a photo in her hand. That is a photo you took under the sunset in an unknown wilderness. In the photo, Nango Ryo is elegant and lazy, Nango Iri is timid and gentle, Nango Hungzia and Nango Qianbo are elegant and generous, Nango Ikuyo and Nango Takina are dignified and polite, and Nango Akane shows an ancient spirit like a little devil. Standing behind her was a mysterious smile, and next to her was Nango Ryo, who was also smiling and wearing glasses. In the middle of this crowd are your and her smiles. You are so happy in the photo. Nangxiang Sugar's physical condition is getting worse and worse. She can easily sit for a whole day and her energy is getting worse and worse. Private doctors tell your daughters to prepare themselves mentally. If this continues, Nangxiang Sugar can only last a year or two. Your daughters expressed silence about the news. They already knew that this day would come sooner or later, but they never thought that this day would come so quickly. After discussion, your daughters agreed to Nangxiang Sugar's request and are willing to take her on a long trip to complete the trip that you did not complete that time and the agreement that you did not complete that time. The modified travel car that was originally modified by your hands has been dusted off by your daughters. After a period of maintenance and inspection, they confirmed that there were no major problems with the car as a whole, and brought Nangxiang Sugar into the car. The long-distance travel car is still the same long-distance travel car. But the people up there, have long been different. Nangxiang Sutang's tears fell down with the help of everyone. She looked at the ordinary-looking car in front of her, which even looked strange because of the modified seats, and thought of many things. She thought about the unfinished agreement, the unfinished trip, and the irreplaceable people in her life. She sat in a familiar position again. She excitedly planned the seats and locations. Tell your daughters where you were seated during your lifetime. After watching your daughter sit down obediently according to her plan, she showed a satisfied smile. You have passed away, and your place will be taken by your daughter. The meaning of the alternation of life is reflected here. The vehicle starts slowly with a low roar. The scenery outside the car window then moves away. She was as happy as a child sitting in the car. Your daughters hope that she can control her emotions and not be overjoyed or sad because just simple mood swings can already affect her already fragile body. But she can no longer control this. Looking at the scenery outside the window, she opened the car window. The breeze mixed with the fishy smell of earth hit her face, and her pale hair flew with it, just like the hem of a girl's flying skirt in midsummer. Her journey with them begins at this moment. Following Nango Sato's instructions, they first drove to Japan's northernmost point, Cape Soya. Follow the memory and drive forward. The scenery on both sides of the road seems to begin to overlap with memories. She smiled and shared the knowledge she heard from you with her daughters in the car, and told them about the scene that moved you when you first came to this place. When the vehicle slowly stopped, she also placed her palm on the monument to the northernmost point of Japan where you first traveled. She slowly raised her head. The orange-yellow color of the sky is mixed with the shallow blue. As beautiful as connecting to another world. She couldn't help but slow down her breathing, she just wanted to experience your past memories more. Your daughter did not speak. They just took out the photo album they had been saving, and while looking at the photos of the northernmost monument in Japan above, they raised their heads halfway, trying to imprint everything in front of them in their hearts. The reason they stayed here for a while was because Nangxiang Sugar's body could no longer bear the long journey during the journey. She needs to rest before setting off to the next location. The next location is Okinawa. Due to Nango Sato's physical condition, they handed over the long-distance travel car to a cargo ship to help transport it, and they contracted a small cruise ship, driven slowly by Nango Yuna, who had driving experience. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwei. Chapter 438. While trying not to affect Nango Sato's body, they arrived at the Okinawa island. The blue of the sea and the darkness of the island reflect. Driving on the straight road that seems to connect to the other side of the sky, everyone has an inexplicable feeling of relaxation and joy. They stayed here for a while longer, until the night when the summer fireworks festival started. Then they helped Nangxiang Sugar to a nearby observation deck and looked up to watch the fireworks. The fireworks soared into the night sky with a roar, dragging a long tail flame, and the red firelight became dim, as if it was about to disappear under such circumstances. However, the blazing red fireball did not dissipate the brilliance accumulated and finally burst out. The orange light took on the shape of long strips and petals and spread out in all directions. Nangxiang Sugar didn't speak, she just quietly raised her head and watched the colorful flowers blooming above her head and slowly disappearing. With this hazy night full of fireworks smell, the daughters seemed to have seen what she looked like when she was young. She raised her head together with you, looking at the fireworks in front of her in the same posture. Time continues to go on. After enjoying the summer fireworks in Okinawa, Nango Sato's health suddenly deteriorated rapidly. It seems to be caused by the non-stop traveling in the past few months. The already extremely fragile body is already overwhelmed. Because of this incident, your daughters even had a big quarrel with each other. Some thought that she should not be taken away for a long journey, while others thought that instead of watching their mother rotting and powerless in the hospital bed, it would be better to fulfill her last wish. The two sides continued to argue, and finally stopped due to her calm, weak, almost sleep-talking babble. Her lips moved slightly, as if to say not to quarrel. It seems to be saying that it's all my fault. They looked at their extremely weak mother on the hospital bed and stopped their meaningless quarrel at this moment. Blaming others doesn't change anything. They actually understand this. Similarly, it is Nangxiang Sugar's wish to continue this unfinished journey. Wait until Nangxiang Sugar's body recovers a little. They took her away from the hospital. The only difference this time is that at the doctor's request, they carried a large amount of intravenous drugs with them. Her fire of life has reached its end, and she begins to need drugs to maintain the weak fire of life. The place to go next is a place that has been decided a long time ago, and it is also a place where my father and mother have been, Azuma Valley. This is an extremely romantic name. They will wait here for the red leaves all over the sky to be dyed red by the autumn frost. They have to wait for the harvest in autumn, and for the fresh and crisp wild vegetables to mature, and then pick them and give them to Nangxiang Sugar. However, they came too early after all. Because they had to take care of Nangxiang Sugar's physical condition, they arrived near the Azuma Valley many days in advance. The red leaves are only half burned. Even the green and beautiful mountain scenery in front of you makes people feel disgusted and anxious. They don't want to see the green mountains, they want to see the autumn frost dyeing everything red, they want to stand in the dense forest and watch the red leaves wither and fall. Their calls in their hearts, hoping that someone can hear their calls and fulfill their wishes, fulfill their mother's wishes. Seeing my mother getting weaker and weaker, she sleeps much longer than she is awake. Physicist Nangome, who has never believed in the theory of gods, made a special trip to a nearby shrine to pray for blessings. Nango Yuna, who has always been lazy and doesn't want to do anything, tied a series of autumn wind dolls. In addition, they also did many things. Nango Notake, Nango Muna, and Nango Masaras stayed up all night waiting by Nango Suzu's bedside, listening to her tiny whispers, as trivial words as if they were murmuring in sleep, and clasped their hands together to pray for her. Perhaps their calling really had an effect. Or maybe there really is a God in this world. The red leaf season came very early this year. Just one night. An unknown autumn wind turns the mountains and fields red. The red leaves are burning quietly. They were excited and happy about this, and hurriedly pushed Nangxiang Sugar, who needed wheelchair assistance, to enjoy the beautiful scenery in front of them. Red leaves are flying all over the sky and falling on her white temples. Nangxiang Yan next to him saw the situation and subconsciously wanted to reach out his hand to pick off the red leaves, but she stopped him. Senior Nangxiang said, "We are decorated with red leaves, it looks great." She was leaning on her wheelchair, looking at the beautiful scenery of red leaves flowing quietly in the valley in front of her with cloudy eyes as she murmured. She was probably unconscious when she said this. I just said this subconsciously. Her eyes were distant, as if she saw more than just the beautiful red leaves in front of her. There was more, something only she could see. The daughters of the Nangxiang family held back their voices. He even held his breath subconsciously. They didn't want to disturb the old man in front of them at this time, and they didn't want to make even the slightest movement. The situation of Nangxiang Sugar is getting worse and worse. When she left Azuma Valley, her consciousness was no longer clear. The time she lay down was much longer than the time she sat down. While lying down, she would also subconsciously utter some small murmurs. Some of these babbles are meaningful, and some are meaningless. She sometimes began to become unresponsive to outside sounds. The daughters know that her time is running out. The evil beast named Time is eating away at her body all the time. The injected medicine entered her body along with the thin dropper. Her little spark of life could only be maintained by this thin dropper. Without hesitation, they drove to the last location of the trip, Mount Fuji. This is a long drive. After more than 10 hours of non-stop driving, they finally arrived at the bottom of Mount Fuji. They submitted their mountain climbing application at the responsible office, and then looked sideways. It's different from 30 years ago. Mount Fuji, which originally had no formal hiking trails, now has a climbing trail that can go up. However, this mountaineering trail that allows vehicles to travel only stops at the third station level. The levels of Mount Fuji are divided into the first to 10th stations, and you must rely on human power to walk above it. The highest level that tourists are allowed to reach in Mount Fuji is the 6th station, which is where my father and mother once visited. There is nothing to hesitate. Your daughters changed her clothes and began to take turns carrying Nangxiang Sugar on their backs up the hiking trail. It originally only took 3 hours to walk, but with this alternating carrying situation, it was extended to 6 hours. Sweat formed a sticky ball. Several times they almost fell down due to lack of strength. My body, which was already sleepy after more than 10 hours of driving in a hurry, became even more sleepy at this time. It was also at this time that their mother's weak, distressed murmurs sounded in their ears. Tired? Hearing these words, they were stunned for a moment, and then looked back suddenly, but they found that their mother was just mumbling syllables that they didn't understand at all. Tired? The answer to this question is actually very simple. Of course you're not tired, Mom. Nangxiang Hengxia's daughter, Nangxiang Maikong, turned her head sideways, glanced at her mother's face from the corner of her eye, and smiled. Why are you tired? Just wait a little longer, we are about to go up. Continue upward. Continue upward. Just looking up at the long steps, it seems to be connected to the other end of the sky. But at this time, no one spoke. They just silently, almost religiously, wanted to complete this journey. This was a journey that was too long for their mother. Just like the life of the same person. No matter how long the hiking trail is, it has an end. Coming up from the third station and arriving at the sixth station, they stood where their mother and father had stood before. Take out the folded cloth soft chair. They helped Nangxiang Sugar sit down and spoke softly to their mother who had not responded to the outside world for a long time. Mom, we've arrived at the sixth station. Nangxiang Yan squatted down and spoke in her ear in a low voice. Look, it's the sixth station of Mount Fuji, it's the place you want to come to the most. The mountains are stretching. The town can be seen from here. You can also see the intertwining light and dark sky under the setting sun. Nangxiang Yan gently held Nangxiang Sugar's palm, as if he was afraid that too much force would crush her palm. Look at her eyes still closed. Nangxiang Yan made a sound that was almost pleading. Mom, please open your eyes and take a look. It's what you, Dad and Mom have always wanted to see, the view from Mount Fuji's sixth station. Perhaps it was a certain word in the words that stirred Nangxiang Sugar. Or maybe he felt the pleading of Nangxiang Yan and other daughters. Nangxiang Sugar, who was almost unconscious and unable to sense the outside world, opened his cloudy eyes. Her eyes slowly lifted. Just the act of opening her eyelids seemed to take all her strength. She looked at the scene before her. She saw her daughters surrounding her, looking at her with concern. That calm face seemed to have a little smile. Her palms lifted slightly. It seemed like he was trying to figure out something. It was as if he noticed her movements. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiu Dao Yu de Ziwei. Chapter 439. Nango Misara next to him immediately understood and handed over a photo. That was a photo of them when she was with Nangxiang. The fiery red sunset burns quietly. Her cloudy eyes stared at the group photo. Then he shook his head gently. This made Nango Misara a little stunned. She continued to raise her hand, wanting to explore. And it was this weak movement. A photo hidden in her arms finally slowly slipped away at this moment. That was not the photo of her and them in Nangxiang. But Nangxiang Shi, Nangxiang Sugar, Nangxiang Ili, all the wives of Nangxiang Shi are taking a family photo with their daughters. At that time, Nangxiang was still young. He is handsome with black hair and a naughty and teasing smile. At that time, Nangxiang had not aged at all. Some were embarrassed to face the camera, showing a shy smile. At that time, Nango Ryo, Nango Hengxia, and Nango Yude were all still young. They hugged their daughters and gave the camera their gentlest smiles. Nango Akane, Nango Rio and Nango Satu stood behind them, holding their daughters who were sleeping quietly in their arms. Nango Kishu and Nango Takina were leaning against each other, looking like they were talking quietly. At their feet, Nangxiang Chunchi and Nangxiang Nagzun were naturally at odds with each other, baring their teeth at each other. She has more than just you in her life. Similarly, she is also accompanied by her daughters in her life. When Nango Misara put the photo in her palm and watched her gently caressing the surface of the photo unconsciously. Tears also slowly welled up at this moment. She has reached the end of her life, the end of her journey. After returning home from Mount Fuji, she passed away surrounded by her daughters. While examining the belongings left behind after her death, your daughters also discovered photos of each of them hidden in her pocket. That's who she is. Your daughter was amused by her childish behavior, and while stroking the photo, she thought of you. This year, the second generation ending band created a song called The End of the Journey. This year, Nangxiang Chunchi and Nangxiang Yan jointly created a novel called His, Her, and Their Final Journey. This year, Nan Xiang raised funds in the future to shoot a movie called Journey of Love. This year, they have done many, many things. Just to commemorate you who they love. Chapter 298. You completed a nearly perfect simulation 4,000 words. At this point, the simulation is completely over. After watching the entire simulated Nangxiang, I couldn't help but feel a little silent. At the same time, he also knew the reason why the simulation had not stopped even though he, the main participant in the simulation, had passed away. That's right. He is indeed dead. But the simulation doesn't end there. As her wife, Nangxiang Sugar has a story with him. I really didn't expect it when I was in Nangxiang. For the sake of a casual promise made by everyone, Nangxiang Sugar would be so persistent, clinging to a promise that could no longer be fulfilled. Fool. Feeling the Nangxiang Sugar that passed away contentedly in the simulation, Nangxiang Shi couldn't help but sigh. He is indeed a fool. It was clear that they could continue to persevere while resting in the hospital bed, but they insisted on continuing to fulfill their agreement, which led to their early death. In Nangxiang Shi's eyes, this kind of behavior was indeed stupid. But it's indeed her style. Nangxiang Shi sighed softly. That's right. It is indeed the style of Nangxiang Sugar. Because she likes someone, she would hide outside the school alone without an umbrella in winter, waiting for him to show up. Similarly, because you like someone, you want to go to the same university as him and do the same things as him. Everything started because of the word love. Everything ended because of the word love. Nangxiang Sugar has been chasing love all her life. In this simulation, I don't know if she has truly fulfilled her wish. Thinking like this, Nan Xiangxi slowly raised his finger and poked at the simulator page. Simulation ends. System evaluation, 98 points. System prompt, you have completed a nearly perfect ending, and special rewards will be opened for you. 98 points. The perfect ending? Nangxiangxi raised his eyebrows. This is the first time he has completed a simulation with such a high score. You must know that even if you personally simulated moving forward with the ending band, it would only be an ending with a score of 96. This time the score is directly 98. It really exceeded Nangxiangxi's expectations. However, what Nangxiangxi was more concerned about was undoubtedly the so-called special reward. He reached out and clicked subconsciously, wanting to see what the special reward was. But this time it clicked. He also didn't get the specific information about the props and how to use them as usual. The so-called special reward seems to be special in that he cannot check it carefully. In response, Nangxiangxi couldn't help but frown. He didn't quite understand what it meant. But never mind. Nangxiangxi shook his head. If you can't view the special rewards, you can't view them. Let's look at other things. He moved his gaze downwards, and then saw the overall evaluation of the simulation this time. You met her because of a heavy rain. She wanders the road like a ghost, helpless. A soft heart is your biggest fault. You sent her to the hospital after she fainted, and she fell in love with you at first sight in the process. Love is a very wonderful thing. Some people form a permanent relationship with just one glance. She entangled you, and you felt helpless at first, even a little disgusted with her. But as time goes by, you gradually get a glimpse of the loneliness in her heart. She reaches out to you not only to get the light she longs for from you, but also hopes to accompany you all the way. You are determined to solve her knot and treat her symptoms of lack of emotion. You carefully planned this, step by step, and even roped in her aunt as your helper. Under your deliberate arrangement, the knot in her heart will gradually be untied, and she will gradually become emotional. She will feel shy for your teasing, and feel uneasy because your eyes will shift. It was also at this time that the feeling called jealousy eroded her. She was worried that the flame called jealousy would burn you, and worried that she would do something stupid because of it, so she wanted to stay away from you. She carefully planned a long trip, and the time was chosen on the day when you were preparing for the exam. You saw through her carefully planned journey. That day, you took her riding in the heavy snow. It was like a fairy tale scene with white snow, like a story about a knight embracing a princess. It was the most beautiful scenery she had ever seen in her life. With your comfort, she untied her knot and decided to move forward with you. For this reason, her first goal is to be admitted to Dongda University. The test at the University of Tokyo was very cruel, and she failed the first time she tried. But as long as you are by her side, she will have the strength to move forward again. She passed the second test and was admitted to the University of Tokyo. The early spring cherry blossoms unveiled by the University of Tokyo that year were the most beautiful cherry blossoms you and she saw. Under your guidance, she slowly began to work on writing. Combining your energy with his, she writes an excellent novel and gained fans and money as a result. The moment she got the money, she divided it half and you half without hesitation. You have always taken care of her, and now she is finally able to repay part of the debt. Although you have never asked her for money, after hearing her words, it was difficult to refuse. Time, continue backwards. The following story is not just a story between you and her, but a story between you and them. End of the band began to become famous in the rock circle. Rico Rico began to be known to many people as a famous coffee house in Tokyo. That year, the names of Tang and Shi were among the best in bookstores and online sales. That year, Nangxiang Xinzhou Special Photography Company officially set sail. That year, a genius girl named Ryo Futaba entered a high-end physics laboratory. Your dreams and careers will start to develop smoothly. But at a certain point, everyone feels tired and out of breath because of their rising fame and status. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 440. In order to relax, you choose to travel far away. For a whole year, you traveled all over Japan, and finally stopped at Mount Fuji. Looking at the twinkling stars in the sky, you know it's time to go home. However, starting to go home is not the end of your life journey. During the 3 months of traveling, you chose to get married. All kinds of weddings have troubled you a lot, but you finally fulfilled all the wishes of your wives. Time continues to move backwards. A year into your marriage, your wives became pregnant. Although there is a first and a last, every wife's belly is pregnant with new hope. You did not write this year, but focused on taking care of your wife. Under your care, 9 daughters were born, and your lives have reached a new starting point. My daughter is growing up healthily under your care, and you are also aging slowly at a speed visible to the naked eye. You decide to take another trip before the end of your life. This time you are going to a wider place. Japan is almost gone. Finally, maybe you were tired from walking, or maybe you were attracted by the scenery, and you stopped at an unknown wilderness. Under the blazing sunset, you make up your mind to take another trip next year. Your reckless decision may have offended the beast called time. It took Nango Kishu and Nango Takina away from you, and when you were immersed in sadness, it took away Nango Ichiri and Nango Ryo. The next time will be your most painful time. Your wives passed away one after another. Obviously several years have passed, but it seems like only a day or 2 has passed. When you look back, only Nangxiang Sugar is left with you. However, at this time, you no longer have the strength to initiate a long trip, initiate a long journey. Under the gaze of Nangxiang Sugar, you also closed your eyes forever. Time is so ruthless, enough to completely erase your existence. In order to fulfill your final agreement, she decided to drag her decaying body on another long journey. Only this time, the people accompanying her are not you, but your daughters. They took her to see the sky over the northernmost strait in Japan. They took her to enjoy the summer fireworks on the island of Okinawa. They took her to hold the burning red leaves. Can love transcend time? This is a question that countless people are pursuing and want to ask. Your daughter also has this question. Time passes, things decay, and endless time eats away at anything that has a shelf life. Human beings cannot resist, nor can they stop it. And you and your wives have the answer to this. The human body will gradually die, but love is an existence that can transcend matter. It will break the shackles of time and achieve eternal marks. Although you and your wives did leave, at that moment, the moment she took out the photo to them. Love does transcend time. Although I have already experienced the plot in the simulation. But sort it out as a whole. This simulation still left Nangxiang speechless for a long time. This is different from the previous situation where you only interacted with simulated objects. This time he has relationships with all simulated objects. If the previous love is equal to a separate simulated object. So this simulation is the sum of 9 equal parts of love. It's no wonder the simulation scores are so high this time. When Nangxiang took a look at the 98-point system evaluation, he vaguely understood the reason. 2 points remaining. He estimated that the main reason was that the people accompanying Nangxiang Sugar were not him and his wives. This made Nangxiang Sugar feel a little regretful. But this is almost enough. No love is absolutely perfect. When a person meets and falls in love with another person, there will inevitably be regrets. However, this regret is not just a bad thing. A little regret will become an experience that makes each other cherish this relationship even more. Yes. No need to regret at all. It's just that the perfect ending of 100 points was not achieved. This was actually a good thing for him when he was in Nangxiang. How strange. Nangxiang she really couldn't give himself any more psychological comfort. He couldn't help but turned his head and looked at Nishiki Kishu beside him. Then he reached out and pinched the face of the first culprit to die. I really don't know what's going on. Why is it that Nishiki Kishu is the first to die every time? If it weren't for her sudden health problem, there will be no regrets at all in this simulation. I started traveling again the next year to make up for all the regrets in my life. And it was precisely because of Nishiki Kishu's physical problems. This would lead to the mood swings of Inu Takina, her sister and best friend, which would eventually lead to the grief affecting her body, and she would also leave with the departure of Nishiki Kishu. It's like a chain reaction. In the years that followed, his wives slowly died away. That's a 100% outcome. I missed the 100% ending. How could you sleep? Looking at Nishiki Kishu, who was guilty of heinous crimes, Nanxiangshi twisted her petite face. And it was precisely under his actions. Nishiki Kishu, who was sleeping soundly, said hum and slowly opened his fiery red eyes. Nanxiang was staring at her when he saw her. She had just woken up from her sleep and had no idea what was going on. Her face was full of shock. What's wrong? Shijun. It's nothing, go to bed early. It's already so late and you still haven't slept yet. Nangxiangshi said this without hesitation. Ah. Nishiki Kishu stared blankly at Nangxiang in front of him. She wanted to explain that it was the other person who woke her up from her deep sleep. As a result, at this time, he actually beat me back. This situation caught her by surprise. But I don't know why, but Nishiki Kishu seems to understand Nangxiangshi's mood very well. Because she just had a dream. In the dream, she married Inu Takina, the band, Akane Shinjo, Ryo Futaba, and a girl with pink sugar hair named Matsuzaka and Nango. It was the most wonderful wedding in life. When they were married into Nangxiang as brides, beauty and happiness enveloped them. But my body just doesn't live up to expectations. Every time he was the first to die. As a result, there was a chain reaction, and the agreement between them and Nangxiangshi finally came to nothing. This was an unspeakable regret in that dream. As a result, she still can't relax now. Nishiki Kishu took a deep breath, as if he wanted to dispel all the regrets in the dream, closed his eyes, and slowly pressed his body against Nan Xiangshi's back. Nang Xiang, who was about to check the status of the simulator, was a little surprised by Nishiki Kishu's attitude and couldn't help turning his head to look at him. "Let me lean in for a moment, Toki-kun." Feeling Nan Xiangshi's gaze, Nishiki Kishu spoke softly. Her palms made no move to relax. And it seemed that he was aware of the fluctuations in her heart. Nan Xiangshi nodded slightly, then stretched out his hand to stroke her head. Chapter 299. Miss Yamada has never been reliable. 4,300 words. Matsuzaka Sugar woke up from her sleep, staring at the empty ceiling. I don't know why, but tears seeped out from the corners of my eyes and couldn't stop falling. During this period of contact with Nang Xiangshi, she probably understood the emotions surging inside her. This is an emotion called sadness. And such sad emotions, combined with various memories in my mind. She felt an indescribable emotion welling up in her chest. She stood by the window and opened the curtains. Staring at the scenery outside the window, Matsuzaka Sato suddenly felt an impulse. Want to see him? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwei. Chapter 441. Meet him now. Tell him all the emotions in your heart. It's an impulse. An unwarranted impulse. If it were Matsuzaka Sato in the past, he would definitely be puzzled by this sudden impulse in his heart. But based on the fragments of memory in her mind, she clearly understood what the emotions in her heart represented. This is love. Putting her palms on her chest, Matsuzaka Sato spoke softly. Yes. This is love. There is no selfish desire, I just hope that Nang Xiang will be happy with her and them, true love. When she wanted to see Nang Xiang. I also want to meet the other people in the dream besides the ending band. This time, there was no regret like that extraordinarily real dream. She wants to travel far away with them. The pink-haired girl pressed her palms against the floor-to-ceiling window. Looking out the window at the scenery. She prayed so. And she was not the only one who had the same mood as her. In addition to her, Fudabario, who was also in a tangled mood, was holding a coffee cup in her hand and couldn't calm down. Is that a dream? She murmured to herself while looking at the mist rising in the coffee cup. She had experienced this kind of extraordinarily real dream in her mind before. In the dream, she married Nango Toki and her seniors Nishiki Chisuke and Inu Takina where she was currently working. At that time, Fudabario thought it was just a simple dream. Although the experience is very real, dreams are just things in dreams after all and should not be taken as real. She does like Nang Xiang, but she is not so obsessed that she takes the things in her dreams seriously. This is her most basic reserve as a science student to remain rational at all times. But this time the dream came to mind. But all her previous calmness and rationality were shattered. This time the dream was too real. The existence of the pink-haired girl Matsuzaka Sugar seemed to be imprinted in my mind and truly alive. Gently run your fingers over the coffee cup. The burning sensation coming from the cup wall brought her mind back slightly. Fudabario gently picked up the coffee cup and took a sip. A person cannot construct in her mind a person whom she has no impression of at all. She met Goto Kazuri and others from the ending band at the Oka festival, and Nishiki Kishu and others at Rico Rico, so she could dream about them in her dream. However, Fudabario had never met Matsuzaka Sato, and she had never even heard of this name in school. And it was this girl whom she had never seen or heard of. Her face and name are so clear in my mind. This in itself is unscientific. Unless there is such a person in the world. Fudabario murmured to herself. Yes. Unless there really is such a person in this world. Unless I really had an unforgettable love with Nan Xiang in a parallel world or a parallel time. Fudabario drank the slightly cold coffee in her hand. She couldn't tell what she was feeling right now. Is it the expectation of that dream? Or do you hope that Nang Xiang will marry her like in his dream and officially change her name to Nang Xiang Liu on the page of the household registration book? Thinking of this, Fudabario's palms tightened slightly. This night is destined to be a night full of tangled emotions. Girls who have confirmed their relationship can naturally ignore everything that happens in their dreams and sleep peacefully. But for Kita Ikuyo, this night was an especially difficult night. I had that shameful dream again. As the yang corner of the school, Akude Kita is elegant and has a warm and cheerful temperament that everyone yearns for. However, at this time, she could not make her usual cheerful and generous expression. That fair face was full of blush. Especially when I think back to the dream, as one of the 9 wives, she looked particularly positive. Her face could no longer suppress the blush. She stuffed her face into the pure cotton pillow and let out a soft cry. Ah! What's going on? What exactly is going on? Even if she had that embarrassing dream before, it can be said that she had a crush on Nang Xiangxi because she helped him with tutoring, and because everyone also liked to end the band, that's why she made such a dream with Nang Xiangxi. Shameful dream about getting married. But this time is too much exaggeration compared to the previous one, right? Directly, the 9 wives married Nang Xiangxi. This number is too exaggerated. Moreover, she has obviously never met Fudabario and Matsuzaka Satu, so why does she have memories of these 2 people in her mind? Kita Ikuyo really couldn't understand. There seemed to be a villain running wantonly in her mind, telling her inner struggles. To be honest, if you didn't interact with others in Nangxiang, then according to her personality, she would probably take the initiative to ask, strike up a conversation, and then naturally become her girlfriend. But that's Nango Senpai who has been dating Ichiri-chan, Ryo Senpai, and Hungzia Senpai. She made a confused sound. That's right. When he was in Nangxiang, he had started dating with 3 people in the band at the same time. No matter which angle a girl looks at or thinks about, this is abnormal. But I still miss people like him who are 3-pronged. This is amazing. She slowly pulled her head out of the pillow. It's not because the shyness has faded. It was because she clearly felt that her brain was lacking oxygen and had to pull her head out of the pillow. Is there still a place for me there? She couldn't help but murmur to herself. More than just reality. Memory display based on dreams. Nang Xiangxi will also marry 8 other wives besides her in the future. Does he still have a place for himself next to him? The answer to this question is difficult to come by. Kita Yude thought hard for a long time but couldn't think of an answer. In the midst of confusion and sorrow, Kita Ikuyo finally decided. She decided to ask her most beloved senior, Ryo Yamada, about the dream in her head. After all, in her eyes, Yamada Ryo is considered the most reliable person to end the band. With his expressionless and thoughtful look, he is simply the best person to negotiate with. Of course, Kita Ikuyo still wanted to ask more. If she really wanted to take a step out of it, what opinions would other people in the band have on her? Thinking of this, she slowly opened her phone. When she saw 2:46 in the morning displayed on it, she felt a little confused. On the one hand, he was worried that Yamada Ryo was completely asleep at this time and would not see any news from her. On the other hand, she was worried about hearing a completely negative answer from Yamada Ryo. It's the same mix of emotions. The girl's already chaotic mood was mixed together. Finally, she took a deep breath. She still used the courage she had as a social expert in school and sent a message to Ryo Yamada. Alas. Want to be the sunniest person, Senior Liang. It's very rude to interrupt you suddenly late at night, but if you see it, please reply. I have something very important to discuss with you. Fingers dance on the phone screen. The red-haired girl has never been so nervous chatting with others online. Send this line of characters at the same time. The girl put down her phone. He stood up uneasily, wanting to get a glass of water to relieve his emotions. After all, it's getting late now. There is also a high chance that Ryo Yamada will not reply to her message. If that's the case, she probably has to relax temporarily and wait until tomorrow to communicate with the other party. However, at the moment she put down her phone and was about to stand up and drink water. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 442. I had just sent a message on my cell phone, and the next second it sounded a ding-dong line message prompt. Ah! Kita Ikuyo stopped in surprise. She looked at her phone screen in disbelief. You know, it's already 2:30 in the morning. How could Ryo Yamada be able to read and reply in seconds? But that's the truth. On the chat screen, there was an additional message from Yamada Ryo. Aloof bassist weirdo, Ikuyo, figured out, are you going to marry she? Ah! Kita Ikuyo coughed twice violently. The reply within seconds was something that surprised her. Then the reply on the other end of the screen was like mind reading. This made her even more confused. And what happened to getting married? Senior Nangxiang and I don't have that kind of relationship at all, right? Although they were not even lovers yet, they talked about marriage. Ikuyo Kita couldn't control her emotions for a while, but even then she reached out and sent a message to Ryo Yamada over there. Alas. Be the sunniest person, Senior Liang, don't say weird things at this late hour. I have other things I want to discuss with you. The addition of more honorifics in the text indicates that this matter is very important and Ryo Yamada cannot be allowed to continue to be as free as usual and do whatever he wants. But this message has only just been sent out. Ryo Yamada over there responded. Aloof bassist, really, I thought you wanted to discuss with me how to join the Love Nangxiang Time alliance between me, Lonely Chan, and Hongxia. It turns out not to be so? Ikuyo Kita. No. Just the name of this alliance is weird, right? And what do you mean I want to join you? I obviously didn't say that. She was about to reply. The next second, the ding-dong sound from her cell phone interrupted her actions. Aloof bass weird, isn't it because you had that dream that you wanted to discuss with us and ask if we can accept you? I probably guessed that you would contact me, so I made a special trip to wait for you to discuss it. Alas. To be the sunniest person, Ryo also had that dream. Hearing the unexpected words, Kita Ikuyo didn't even add the honorific senpai this time, and sent out the news with a face full of shock. Ryo Yamada over there confirmed her guess. Aloof bass weird, yet I also had the dream of 9 people getting married together. The aloof bassist, Akude must be very confused now, right? Guo, as expected, he is indeed Senior Liang. So reliable. Looking at Yamada Ryo's words, Kita Ikuyo's spirit suddenly cheered up. Yamada Ryo seemed to have anticipated everything. She instantly felt confident about this consultation. Alas. To be the sunniest person, so what do you think, Senior Liang? She asked the question hastily. The aloof bassist, you shouldn't ask me about this, but you. The text there paused slightly. Aloof bass weird, instead of asking my opinion, why not ask yourself, do you like it? Well. Say this sentence. Kita Ikuyo, who was still waiting for the other party's answer, paused. Yamada Ryo over there did not stop replying because of Kita Ikuyo's interruption. Aloof bass freak, if you like it, then there is no need to hesitate, just let it go and do what you think is right. Asking me, Hongxia and Lonely Zhang about their thoughts has no effect at all, because it is also your right to like someone. My own rights? Looking at Yamada Ryo's reply, Kita Ikuyo fell into thinking. Do you like Nang Xiangxi? The answer to this question is not difficult to answer. Kita Ikuyo knew it very well. She did have feelings for Nang Xiangxi, who was always looking after them and protecting them when they finished the band. Then, according to Yamada Ryo's theory, she should also have the right to like Nang Xiangxi. But aloof base weird, but you have been struggling, not because you like she or not, but because you are worried about whether she likes you or not. Words jumped out. And this line of words made Kita Ikuyo completely convinced of Yamada Ryo. Ryo Yamada is too reliable today. Even through the phone screen, it was as if he could penetrate her heart and see her uneasiness. Yes. Even if I like Nang Xiang. But in the end Nang Xiang didn't like her. Then wouldn't there be much difference in the final result? But since Ryo Yamada raised this topic, she must have her own solution, right? Think so. Kita Ikuyo looked at the phone screen. Really? Ryo Yamada over there sent another reply. The aloof bassist, no, I'm so sleepy, let me get straight to the point, let me tell you how to win Ashi's heart. Coming. Kita Ikuyo cheered up and looked at the screen attentively. The aloof bassist, let me tell you, if you want to win she's heart, you must wait. Long wait. Kita Ikuyo's eyes widened as if he was afraid of missing the guidance of his love mentor Yamada Ryo. However, there was no reply from the other side. And it wasn't until this moment that Kita Ikuyo suddenly realized. Wait. Wait. Senior Ryo. Kita Ikuyo couldn't help but reach out and slap his phone, his mouth wide open. Don't fall asleep. I won't be able to sleep all night if I'm stuck here. She desperately called to Ryo Yamada on the other end of the phone. Several messages were even sent and several phone calls were made. But these are completely meaningless. On the other end of the phone, Yamada Ryo was already lying on the bed, breathing evenly. Miss Yamada has never been reliable. Chapter 300. This is about my friend. 4,000 words. Kita Ikuyo stayed up late. After staying up for nearly a whole night, I managed to sleep for an hour at about 6 o'clock in the morning. During this period, she had been sending messages to Yamada Ryo. I hope to wake up Miss Yamada, who has fallen into a deep sleep, and ask her about the so-called method of capturing the heart of Nang Xiang. But she failed. Ms. Yamada over there seemed to be completely asleep. He had no intention of replying to her message. Because of this, Kita Ikuyo lay on the bed tossing and turning and couldn't sleep at all. It is precisely for this reason. Sleepy. Staggeringly supporting his body with a flat-headed mop, Kita Ikuyo tried hard to open his eyes and work hard. But she was severely deprived of sleep and couldn't concentrate at all at the moment. More than just work. She almost fell asleep during several classes in the morning. Fortunately, the afternoon class was physical education, so she was lazy and squinted for a while, so she could hold on until now. But it's just, I've reached my limit by now. Kita Ikuyo murmured, his light golden eyes flashed with a sleepy light, his eyelids were closed several times, and she finally opened them again. Her energy had clearly reached its limit. It is also this time. What's going on? Ikuyo. You need to be more serious about your work. Next to him, Ryo Yamada expressed his opinion expressionlessly. No. Listening to Yamada Ryoshi's honest words, Kita Ikuyo couldn't help but look at her sideways and opened his mouth. Who does this person in front of me think made her become like this? It was obviously because Ryo Yamada in front of him was speaking in the middle of his speech that he stayed up late and couldn't sleep, and became like this. As a result, the other party actually stood up and accused himself at this time.